On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast, our guest is Cleveland Fire Chief Chris Ellington. And this is the second episode we've done with him. In this episode, we talk to him about all the different community service the firefighters and the fire department do in the Cleveland community, including Celebrate Cleveland, the Cleveland Christmas Parade, and Camp Blaze for elementary school kids, and this year also middle school kids at the fire department. We talked to him a little bit about the creation of the county fire tax, why it was necessary, and things you can do to make your home safer from fire. So listen in.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Best of Johnston County podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden. And on today's episode, we have our second interview sit down with the Cleveland Fire Chief, Chris Ellington. And on this episode, we're going to talk to him a little bit about all the community service and involvement that the Cleveland Fire Department has. We'll go back over his history of how he got into the fire department and a little bit about what the fire department does that you might not realize that they do for our community. If you would like to hear him talk a little bit about his childhood and growing up in the Cleveland community and how much it's changed, as well as the training requirement that the firefighters have to go to, the shifts they work, and how many firefighters work every day in the Cleveland community, go back a couple of weeks and listen to the first interview we had with him. I think you will find that interesting. But before we get to this second interview, please like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, whether it's on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, X, TikTok, or any of the other social media channels of the Best Johnston County podcast. The Best Johnston County podcast comes out every single Monday and has now for 21 months. So please go back and listen to our previous episodes. We've had a lot of great guests from Johnston County on over the almost 2 years we've been bringing you this podcast. It is hard to believe that it's been almost 2 years since Raina Birch, my social media coordinator, and I started this podcast, Best of Johnston County, in November of 2023. So please give us a 5-star review down below. We've really enjoyed bringing it to you, and we hope you'll enjoy this episode as well. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. So this is the second episode, but not everybody listens to every episode. So let's start with state your name and what you do.
All right, my name's Chris Ellington. I'm the fire chief of the Cleveland Fire Department.
All right, and how long have you been the chief at the Cleveland Fire Department?
20 years. This July was 20 years.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time. And I think when you became the chief, there were 3 employees, and you were a volunteer, yep, and you worked full time for the school system.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had a 2-year-old son.
And had a 2-year-old son. That is wild. I don't guess you got a whole lot of sleep back then. No. I mean, that was crazy. I think you worked for the school system. You were like facility services, right?
I worked for facility services as a plumber.
Okay. Did you enjoy doing that with the school system?
I did. I was not far out of high school, enjoyed doing that, and worked with them several years. And it was a rewarding career as well.
Right. So what brought you into firefighting? Like, why did you become a firefighter?
Like I said in the other episode, probably peer pressure. Yeah. And that was probably the best peer pressure I've ever been under. But my friends were doing it. I knew a lot of people on the department, and they were talking about how much fun they were having. So I decided to give it a try.
Oh, man, you decided to give it a try. All right. Well, and you, obviously you enjoyed it.
I did. It was like I said in the first podcast. Once you start doing it, it's contagious. You can't get enough of it. Some call it adrenaline rush or whatever, but it was just fun.
Well, and you're helping your community.
Absolutely.
I mean, you grew up right here in the Cleveland community. Yep. You go to Clayton High School?
I went to South Johnston High School.
You went to South Johnston High School.
Yeah,
okay.
We had the option to go to Clayton or South Johnston.
Okay.
And I chose South Johnston.
You chose South Johnston. All right.
I kind of polled everybody that was going to high school that year, saw how many friends were going which way, and decided to go that way.
So. All right. You went to South Johnston. Well, that's cool. So let's talk a little bit about community involvement. I mean, this fire department does a whole lot more than just fight fires. Sure. I mean, and now, fires are probably a very small percentage of the calls. Sure. Because y'all run almost all types of calls. You took over, thank goodness, because I had run out of gas and our committee had fallen apart. Celebrate Cleveland a few years ago. And the Celebrate Cleveland, for people that don't know, is the July 4th celebration here in Cleveland. It has included and still includes a show up community parade. Anybody can show up, golf carts, dogs, horses, floats, whatever you want, no fee, show up, get in line to be in the parade. And then there's music and food trucks at night. And then they shoot off a bunch of fireworks about 9:15. I think Celebrate Cleveland started back in like 96 or 97 with Cookie Pope.
I think 96 was the first year.
Right. And she was just becoming a county commissioner then. We're going way back. And I moved here in 2000 and immediately started going with the Crossroads Civitan group. And I would sit in the dunking booth and we would raise money for Special Olympics. And everybody wanted to dunk the lawyer. And of course, I could talk enough junk for anybody to entice kids to pay $5. And the fire department would come fill up the dunking booth for us.
Absolutely.
And so, anyway, you did that one time, and I was in there. Did we ever get you in that dunking booth?
Absolutely not.
We did not. Okay, all right. Well, we had a good time over the years. We're doing that, and then Cookie started to take a step back, and then I tried to stay on the committee. It was me and got Robert Underwood and Dentley III, who's now, I guess, doing all that stuff and so we tried to do it along with a few other community members for a couple of years, but we didn't have time to know what we were doing. And then the chamber talked about trying to do it, and that didn't really go that well. And finally, after it had just about completely fallen apart, you stepped in and the fire department took it over. So why did you do it and all that stuff?
I had tried to get involved and help Miss Cookie, over the years, make it work. And I understand now, after I think this is my 10th year doing it, I understand why she was tired. And I wanted to see it continue. I mean, I told somebody said, why do you do it? I said, all you have to do is walk down that road and see all those kids. And that's why we do it. So we wanted to keep it going. I got an email and it said, I'm not going to do it this year. Somebody needs to take it over. And I'll never forget that. And I thought, let this lay for a couple of days and see if anybody's crazy enough to jump on it. And nobody was. Nobody was. Nobody but me.
I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I mean, I was a small helper on the committee. I was not the one that was knocking on doors, trying to raise money for fireworks and all that. I mean, I did what I could do, but I had a growing business too,
Absolutely. And I remember taking it over, and my deciding factor was I was worried about fundraising. And, it's all donations. And I was worried about fundraising, and I finally talked to the association, our Firefighters Association. And I said, look, I'm thinking about doing something really crazy. It was kind of my start of my crazy ideas in the fire service. But I said, I'm thinking about doing something crazy, taking this over. But I'm worried about fundraising. And they said, well, don't worry about it. Financially, we got your back. And that's how it started. And that's how it's continued to this day. They're a big contributor every year. They don't like to talk about that, but they are. And that's one of the ways they give back to the community.
So what is the Firefighters Association?
So it is a nonprofit organization separate from the Cleveland Fire Department. And they raise money through fundraisers and things like that. And what they do is they will, if a firefighter is sick, firefighter's family is sick, they make donations. And they've made donations all over Johnston County and Wake County as well to firefighters that are sick or families that lose homes, things like that. Every year at Christmas, one thing that people don't realize is every year at Christmas, we go to the schools and we get with the guidance counselors and we get a list of products to buy. And we've really got something worked out great with Polenta where we buy off Amazon and other places, and the parents can come in, the less fortunate parents can come in and shop for their children for Christmas. And it gives a lot, it's not all gifts and toys, it's necessities. There's a huge need in the Cleveland community and Johnston County as well for these less fortunate families.
Well, there's no doubt. And, when I think of the fire departments, I think of barbecue plate sales. Yep. And, I mean, y'all have done a few of those. I've been to them, but you haven't done a many and you haven't done a whole lot lately. So what are they doing to raise money?
So they send out a mailer every year.
I give money to that every year.
And that mailer is just a donation. It says, explains a little bit about their mission and what they do. And the community has supported that greatly over the years. The barbecue fundraisers are very time consuming. And with the amount of calls we're running now, the last thing you want is all that barbecue on the grill and we have a house fire somewhere and everybody has to leave it, The barbecue fundraisers are becoming increasingly harder to do. We enjoyed them, and we talk about them every year and talk about doing one. But just the logistics of it, we can't do it anymore.
I got you.
So.
Now, is that separate? There used to be a women's firefighter auxiliary group, but I don't know if that's the same group or they're the same now.
No.
But they had a different sign and they had their own fundraisers.
Years ago, there was a ladies' auxiliary.
Okay.
And a lot of your volunteer fire departments still have a ladies' auxiliary. And they do the same thing that the Firefighters Association do. Here in Johnston County, I know ladies' auxiliaries that have funded trucks, they have funded turnout gear and things like that. So, or give large contributions for a down payment on a truck. And they're doing the same thing. They're doing bake sales and fundraisers just to help the fire department out.
Right. Well, that's great. That's great. And then at some point, you took over the Christmas parade. And I know Kim Lauder first came up with the Christmas parade idea when she was the president of the Greater Cleveland Chamber of Commerce, yes, which ended up folding during COVID. So I guess maybe it was her idea because she created it to start with. I don't know.
we kind of got together after a Christmas parade, and Kim and myself worked really close together at the chamber. And I had always told her when I had an administrative position that I wanted her to come work for me. We joked about it for several years. And when that time came, I called her and she jumped on it. And she's the person behind all our social media and a lot of our community outreach. But she jumped on the Christmas parade back at the chamber. And I got with her because we were doing the 4th of July stuff. And really, really poured into that a few years. And when the chamber went away, we just continued it through Celebrate Cleveland. And that is really the event that you see the kids' faces light up going up and down that road.
Oh, so. It's great. It's great. And, it gives us, and I was one of the very first members of the Cleveland Chamber with Deidre Jersey back in 2000 and stuff. And I was on the board forever of the Cleveland Chamber. And I did everything I could. And it just didn't work out with COVID. A lot of things went away. And so I was happy to see you pick up Celebrate Cleveland when you did, and then you picked up the Christmas parade with Kim and all the work she's done, because it is the two things that allows this community out here in Cleveland to have a sense of community. We're not a town. We don't have a mayor. We don't have a town council. We don't have a postal code. What we have is the fire department, and I think that matters a lot. And I think your commitment to that, being a Cleveland lifer, has allowed us to continue to try to create a sense of community in a boom intersection, basically, off of I-40, and Celebrate Cleveland, and that parade really is what we have now that we don't have the Strawberry Festival anymore.
Yeah, you're right. And the Strawberry Festival was another huge event. It was huge for the chamber. And we had thought about doing that, but we're just too busy. I mean, tackling July 4th and tackling the Christmas parade is all we can handle in that scale, I guess you would say.
Right. But you also run summer camps for kids. Talk a little bit about that.
That was and they reminded me this morning as our last camp was winding up and I was talking to the parents and kids. They reminded me that was my crazy idea about 3 years ago. I saw a fire department somewhere in the country that was doing it. And I said, well, if they can do it, why can't Cleveland? And it started out as, let's try this and let's see how many kids sign up. Well, the first year was about 25 kids, elementary age kids. They came for 3 days, and they saw all aspects of public safety, from forestry service, EMS, police, fire, everything, all the way down to Duke Life Flight. And it was a hit. I mean, everybody wanted to get in. It was 3 days packed of just excitement for kids. They come at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave by lunch, thank the Lord. And the last day is kind of a water day. It was a great thing. And we saw how many kids we were reaching out to and the response we got. Year 2 was even bigger. So we said, hey, let's do 2. Let's do 2 and let's do 50 kids at a time. And they remind me every time we talk about camp, that was my idea to do 2 camps and do 50 kids at a time. Well, this year we expanded it to 3 camps. And the need for junior firefighters. We want those junior firefighters again to get exposed. So I said, why don't we tap into the middle school age kids? So we held a 2-day middle school camp for middle school age kids. It was very successful. We had about 25 kids, learned a lot, helped them with a career path. They're going to high school soon and trying to get into public safety. And whatever form of public safety they get into, I think it's important that we push that. we've not really been good stewards of that in the county of pushing kids toward public safety. And I want to change that. Like I said, this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, there were 50 kids. Thursday and Friday was an additional 50 kids that we saw. So we're reaching out to 100 children in a week. And that doesn't count siblings and parents. And this year, when we opened up that camp, the elementary age kids, the registration was open for 11 minutes, and we had 72 people sign up. And I begged Kim to shut it. I said, please cut it off. I said, cut it off. And we were only going to have one camp and only have about 20 to 25 kids. And she said, what are you going to do now? I was like, well, we need to try to fit them all in. And we did. We did that, and it was a big success. Parents love it. Kids love it.
You charge for this camp?
We do not charge.
You do not charge
We
for
do not charge.
Okay.
Last year, we were able to receive a grant through OSFM, Fire Marshal's Office for the state, and we received a grant to do that. This year, with the western part of the state being devastated, that grant was not offered, rightfully so. And that funding just goes through our fire prevention line item of our budget. So,
well, I saw them out there this morning. We're recording this at the end of July of 2025, and they had the ladder truck up, and they were spraying the water off the ladder truck, and all the kids were in their bathing suits in front of a big bounce house.
Yep.
And they were having the best time. I mean, I kind of wanted to put my bathing suit on and go out there and let them spray me from the ladder truck.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So you do a tremendous amount for the community. Let's talk a little bit about the funding of the fire department. We all Cleveland residents and everybody in Johnston County, you have to pay what is now the county fire tax. Prior to 2 years ago, each individual fire district had a separate tax rate that was set by the commissioners at the recommendation of the local county fire board. These individual fire departments are still run by a local county fire department board that is appointed by your county commissioners, and that's who employs your chief or our chief, Chris Ellington. He's not a county employee. He's not a state employee. He's an employee of his local fire department board, and that is unique now, because you have the city of Raleigh you have to compete with for talent, and they get state retirement and county retirement. I mean, city retirement. So, that's unique. I don't think a lot of people realize that. It's kind of the bastion going back to the volunteer days where maybe the benefits and what we're doing has not caught up. And I know that you were instrumental in this sort of fire protection council for the county where you were going to look at a way to sort of equalize the funding around the county, because Cleveland had all these houses and commercial buildings, and we had brand new ladder trucks and all this stuff. And some fire departments had trucks that were 30 and 35 years old. And you saw that wasn't right and wanted to work with the commissioners to try to change that. So talk a little bit about that and that process, because I give you complete grief about that fire tax all the time, because ours went up out here.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I understand it, but it still didn't make me happy.
And rightfully so. And living in the Cleveland community, mine went up drastically, just like yours did. And I saw benefit to that though, and the purpose behind it. We'll talk about purpose behind it. We saw that fire gear, turnout gear, fire trucks, SCBAs all cost the same thing, no matter where you're at in this county or whether you're at in this state or the country. And departments were having to run with subpar gear, if you will, or subpar trucks, air packs, things like that. But they were facing the same dangers that we were here in Cleveland. We were the haves and they were the have-nots. They were not providing a excellent service, but they just could not update their equipment like we could. So that was a problem. And with Cleveland, the growing call volume and the need for staffing here, we would get inundated with calls. We were having to call people in to come help us. And there was other departments. And I got to thinking about it. I said, are those departments equipped like they need to be? And the answer was some of them were not. They were making do with what they had and providing a good service. But they deserve the same protection, and their citizens deserve the same protection that we got here in Cleveland. So it was kind of a way to equal the playing field, if you will. The first year, we supplemented those departments with smaller budgets just to get them to a standard. We created a standard, supplemented their budgets to get them to that standard. And when I talk about a standard, it's not talking about firefighting. It's talking about being able to provide their members that are mostly volunteers with, physicals, with the needed gear that they should have, the needed insurance. One thing that I talk about a lot in the volunteer world was you have a individual that is a full-time employee. Well, if they make $50,000 a year, but they're volunteering, if they get hurt at that volunteer job, workers' comp's not going to pay them based on what they were making. So that type of insurance, that gap insurance, if you will, that was important. Being able to test their fire pumps, their hose, their ladders, their SCBAs, some of those were not being able to be done because just the funding was not there. There was departments operating off $140,000 a year, and I don't know how they were doing it. Just frugal and fundraising. Fundraising was paying their way. So that was the purpose behind it. We knew going in that some would have heartburn. Some would have heartburn that, in theory, the Cleveland money was going to Bentonville.
That's what I kept saying.
Yeah, and when you look at it as a grand scheme as a county, and we're all one team, it's not really one fire department against another. It's we're a family, and we want to help one another. And that's how I had to really look at it, too, because there's a lot of money going from Cleveland to other parts of the county. And, it's all for the greater good of the fire service.
It is. And I gave the commissioners a hard time, and I gave you a hard time. But I understood what needed to happen. I understood that these departments had trucks that were 30 and 35 years old, and a fire is a fire, and somebody needs to come put out the fire. So I mainly was just gesturing with y'all. But my fear was, given Cleveland's lack of political clout in this county, in my opinion, that we would not then have what we needed when we had what we needed before they went to the countywide tax. And many commissioners are like, well, Chris thinks this is a good idea. Chris is going to be fine. Why don't you just call him? And so I would then feel better about it because they were like, look, like he's on board with this. Like, it's going to be okay, Jonathan.
There's 23 fire chiefs in Johnston County. And when we came up with this idea, there was a committee of us. We conducted a fire study, and it was right around COVID. First fire study ever been done in Johnston County. And that committee came up with this idea. And I won't never forget sitting down in front of 23 fire chiefs, trying to get them to agree to this program. And it was to help the other departments. And I was astonished when all 23 fire chiefs said, that's a great idea. We've got to help these departments. And I knew we were on to something. I knew that we were tapping into what we needed to.
Right.
So,
well, and now there's going to be not all fire departments are as well run as others.
Sure.
And so next year the county is going to impose sort of this county budgeting where the fire departments are going to have to bring their budgets to the county. The commissioners and the fire commissioner are going to look at those budgets, and there may be some more scrutiny on what's going on. Some of the departments have fund balances that they could be using.
Yeah.
So I do think there's going to be more oversight coming as we sort of move into this county-wide fire protection, as we've kind of moved into this county-wide EMS protection and away from the individual departments.
Well, and the biggest thing I would say is the departments are going to hold their identity. They're still going to be their own. They're still going to develop their own budgets, things like that. There will be more oversight now. But I think through the policies we're developing on apparatus replacement, staffing, compensation, so we can be competitive, even talking about some cost share stuff now with the towns, make sure everybody's paying their fair share. I think what you're going to see is everybody is going to be brought up. Even the haves are going to continue to grow. And we saw that in this last budget cycle. There was an increase across the county in fire funding, much needed fire funding to be increased. There's a lot of needs out there. A lot of needs that we're trying to systematically attack now.
Right.
Before there was no system or no policy. Now we're getting these policies down that's going to dictate when you need to add staff and when you need to replace the apparatus and things like that. So I think you're going to see good things come out of it.
Right. Well, and we're getting ready to get the new Novo plant, $4 billion of a B. It's going to be paying fire tax too. And that's going to help a lot.
Yes, most definitely.
Right. That's going to help a lot. Well, as long as you've got, I'm a little selfish, Cleveland, you're my chief. I'm like, as long as he's got what he needs. Yeah. But I've seen too many times where Cleveland has sent money to Smithfield and it hasn't come back. Charlotte has the same argument in North Carolina, and I'm not even that big a Charlotte fan. I'm just telling you, I worked at the legislature, and Charlotte was sending a whole lot in and not getting nearly what they were sending and getting back. And I thought, well, here we go again with Cleveland with this fire thing. But you're saying that that's not what's happened. You got a third station, so you've got 35 employees. Your employees are being well compensated, and I think that's what's important.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing we're doing now is we're kicking off a fire station study for Johnston County, not Cleveland, but for Johnston County. That's going to tell us where we need fire stations or where better locations are, and just do a whole analysis of the fire service of Johnston County as a whole for station locations. That is a big thing as well. All right. Looking to the future, Cleveland could use a fourth station.
A fourth station?
A fourth station.
We just got a third station.
We did.
Where would the fourth station go?
It would go back towards Clayton, out Steelbridge Road, Lee Road area.
Okay.
That's where it's plotted.
Okay. So, do we really need we just got the third station.
Yeah, we do.
Right. And then the main reason for the third station was to be on that side of the Interstate 40 and to be that much closer to the new Interstate 42.
Well, travel time was the big push for that station. Fire trucks coming from Station 2 over here on this side of 40, trying to get past, the Lowe's.
The bridge. Right, Lowe's.
And the Tractor Supply
Walmart.
intersection.
Yeah.
Trucks were calling on the radio and they couldn't make it.
Right.
And Station 1 was have to come a different route. So travel times were increased so bad by traffic. So.
All right. Well, the next to last question on this episode will be, what are the things we can do as homeowners to protect our family? I know you preach smoke detectors. You were the smoke detector guy. Like, what are some of the common things we can do? Check your batteries on your smoke detectors.
I would say check your batteries. If your smoke detector is over about 5 years old, get rid of it. Go ahead and get another one. They say 10, but you're talking about your family's life. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, get those things changed out, change batteries. When the time changes, that is the time to do it. We actually have another kind of outreach program we do is a smoke detector canvassing thing. And we go out in the community and canvass a whole community and knock on doors on one Saturday or 2 Saturdays a year and try to install new smoke detectors in houses. We actually go to a 55-plus community one Saturday a year, and we change out every battery in that community.
Oh, man. Okay, that's awesome.
They provide the batteries, and our crews go through and change these smoke detector batteries.
Oh, that's great.
But, outside your home, a lot of people love pine straw. A lot of people love that. I don't encourage you to use pine straw. If you live in a house with vinyl siding, you basically have a fuel on the side of your house. So I'd urge you to use rock or something non-combustible.
All right. Well, that's cool. Last question we ask everybody on this podcast. What do you love most about Johnston County?
And I said it in the first one, the small town feel. And it's here. Whether you're in Cleveland or you're all the way in Bentonville, the Cleveland people or the Johnston County people are still Johnston County people. Salt of the earth people, want to help their communities. And I think that's you see that now in the fire service and all over the county.
No, there's no doubt about it. Most everybody that's come on here for the almost 2 years we've done this have said it's the people. I think it's the people. It is what I love most about Johnston County. They are the best people that I have met anywhere as I've gotten to travel around. I've been fortunate to see different parts of the world, been in a lot of different states. No better place than Johnston County in my mind. Anyway, we'd like to thank Cleveland Fire Chief Chris Ellington for being our guest on this episode of the Best of Johnston County. As we mentioned earlier, he was on a previous episode a few weeks earlier where he talked a little bit more about the training involved in becoming a firefighter, how they get that training, some more of his history of how he became a firefighter, and some of the things that they do with the calls they run and stuff like that. So go back and listen to that episode, particularly if you enjoyed this episode. We'd like you to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, or any of the other social media channels. of the Best of Johnston County podcast. We would like you to, if you would not mind, and do us the favor of tagging us in your Instagram stories, Best of Johnston County. That is the one way that we can grow the reach of this podcast so more and more people will know more about why you, I, and Chris Ellington love Johnston County. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.